Hey, let's build an MPC server in Python that integrates with Autodesk APIs, and we'll use Claude Desktop to access it. This tutorial is going to show you how to turn any API into a tool set using the Anthropic MCP Python module. Today we're going to use the Autodesk Platform Services API, but you could easily use any other API that you choose. Okay, let's look at the code. Here I have my imports. I'm using the APS toolkit, which is a great useful tool set for you if you're using Python. It wraps a lot of the Autodesk Platform Services APIs into Python. And here I'm loading in the Model Context Protocol, or the MCP library from Anthropic. And I have some helper functions here. We're going to take a quick look at the authentication piece. Authentication is built into this application, and we're leveraging the APS toolkit in this case because it has three-legged authentication built into it. And I have some other helper functions that help me format my information that's coming back from the API. Once we initialize the fast MPC server here, we will have access to these decorators. So in this case, mcp.tool will decorate a method. And in this case, I have GitHubs. And this allows me to add a doc string, which this is the instructions for this tool. And this is what the MCP server or the LLM will use to figure out which tool to call. And here I have Git projects. This requires an argument, so I have instructions and I have specific information about the argument that this tool will require. I also have Git project files and Git versions and their information described in their methods as well. So once we have our tools all set up, and in this case I've wrapped it around 4 specific APIs, and here we're just going to run our server. So here we're going to jump over to Claude Desktop. Once this is configured, you will be able to see the servers that you have connected and the tools you have connected to the Claude Desktop client. And once that's connected and configured, I'm going to ask it a question. Can you give me a project that starts with a string on a hub that includes this string? And it is going to go over and run through the authentication process that we saw before. So once I authenticate, Claude Desktop is going to figure out which tools to call. So it's calling GitHubs and it'll return that information. And then now it's calling Git projects based off of that string that I included before. So it's figuring out that it needs to do 2 steps to get the information back that I need. So here, I'm just going to ask it to list the files that are on this project. It will go out, check with the server to figure out what tool to call. And I do have a method in there that calls the Autodesk APIs and iterates through a project and goes and finds files on that project. So here it went through and it's returning all the files that are on my project. So say I want some specific information about a file. So I'm going to ask it to give me the versions on this specific file. I have an endpoint that's called Git versions. So I'm going to ask it that question about the specific file to give me the version information. Claude Desktop will talk to the server and figure out that it needs to call Git versions again. That will go out to the API and return that information and summarize it to me. So say you want some more granular information about the data that just returned to you. So here I'm going to ask it to graph me out the data. Now Claude Desktop has this feature functionality where once it realizes it needs to graph data or write something, it will go through and write the code that will actually generate this graph. I'm not using any kind of module. It figured out that it just needs to write code to generate the graph about the data that I asked for. So here it wrote HTML and it puts this in a nice format that I can visualize off my data. Thanks everyone. I'm also going to leave a link to the GitHub repo that includes the code so you can download this and try it yourself.